All right, Matt Budgell, welcome to the podcast, brother. It's been a long time coming. Good to have you, man.
My friend, it is an absolute pleasure, brother. Thank you for having me on, man. It's like you said, long time coming. I'm glad the time is here.
For real, man. So, let's give people a little bit of a background. If you could break down to anyone listening, like, what was life like for you as a little kid? Like, what was life like for little Matt running around?
Little Matt running around. Well, for most of it, I thought I was Batman, so that was pretty cool. And my parents were super rad, so
Yeah.
they played along with it, so that was cool. And I spent probably 95% of my time growing up on a baseball field, man. That
Hmm.
was like the epitome. You hear like live, eat, breathe, sleep, something. And
Yeah.
baseball was definitely that for me. It was my first true love, and just really was everything that I wanted my life to revolve around for as long as I could remember. And my some of my earliest memories are from a baseball field. My dad was my coach the whole
Yeah.
time, so we had the father son thing going on, and
Yeah.
father son coach player deal. And then mom was in the stands every game. So
Cheering you
for
on.
me as a kid growing up in Southern California, baseball's it's pretty competitive down there, and you can play it year round. So there's
Yeah.
it doesn't get too much better than that, growing up for me. So it's pretty sweet, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Was your like did you have was your dad like an athlete, your mom, or was kind of just this like where did you get the I think the belief most importantly that like I could actually like turn this into a career? Like did was there someone around you that was a professional athlete or just where'd that
Well,
come from?
yeah, so my mom, not athletic. I don't think she would consider herself to be an athlete. I don't want to say
Yeah.
she's not athletic, because if my mom hears this, she's gonna smack me next time she sees me. But she wasn't an athlete growing up. You know what I'm saying? She
Yeah.
she runs, and she like loves to do half marathons and stuff like that. Marathons. But
Okay, so definitely athletic.
yeah, athletic. So mom,
Yeah.
if you ever hear this, I know you're athletic.
Yeah.
But my dad, he played some sports growing up, basketball, football. Never played anything professionally, but he drilled it into me. But when I was a kid, I mean, he made me feel like I was freaking Superman. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So from a very early age, I like always I had the big dream of playing ball on a big level. And then he was always right there, and my mom too, so supportive. But my
Yeah.
dad being my coach, and always the one that was hands on with the baseball stuff, um, he would always just push me to go for it. And even at times when I didn't want to go for it, he would push me to go for it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
as
yeah.
much as I might have resented it at the time, I look back and it's like, damn, like my dad would have let me quit playing baseball, my life would be so different right now than it is. And so
For real.
but yeah, no
So
no professional athletes. Just and I'm from Boston originally. I was born like just outside of Boston, and so we're huge Red Sox fans in the family. And
yeah,
growing up watching like Nomar Garcia Parra play ball, I was like, God, I'm gonna be that guy. You know what I mean? That was
straight
that
up.
was the jam.
So when was you obviously played growing up, it was your whole life, and eventually I believe it was at 17, right? Very at a very young age, you were drafted to the MLB. So like what was that process like? Because that's
Yeah, dude. I was 18,
respect.
senior year of high. Thank you, brother. Yeah, it was 18 senior year. And yeah, man, it was a dream come true, brothers. Seriously, it was just at that point in time, it was the proudest moment of my life. It was the happiest moment of my life. I remember hearing my name get called, and then I mean I must have jumped like 8 feet off the couch in the air with excitement. And then when I came down, I like rolled my ankle pretty good actually, and was like, oh man, this is a great start to to things going here. But yeah, it was surreal, man. To get the opportunity to go out and play ball, and make, like I said, I wanted my life to revolve around it for as long as I could remember. And yeah, I was lucky enough to have the right mentors and
Yeah.
coaches along the way, and the support system. I mean, my parents sacrificed like 15 years of their lives, and who knows how much money. I don't even want to know how much money they've invested into my tournaments and
Right.
gear and all that stuff. So for that to have all paid off the way that it did was pretty special for not just me, but the whole family.
Yeah. And so how long were you in the MLB again?
I played, so technically I was in the MiLB. I was in the minors. I played in the minor league. Any like baseball people out there, don't worry. I was not a big leaguer or anything like that. But yeah, I was in there for about 3 years altogether.
Yeah.
2011 to 2014. And then it was a pretty crazy experience the way that all ended.
Yeah. Well,
Just
kind of break that down because I remember we've talked about it before and you were saying like dream come true and then all of a sudden you're in it for a couple years and it was kind of turned out to be like the opposite of that. So fill us in.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It was a little bit different than what I had anticipated. I think there was just a little bit more political stuff going on than I really
Hmm.
was expecting. And to
Interesting.
be perfectly fair, I was, one of the louder voices that you'd hear. As far as if I disagree with something, I don't have a problem letting you know about that.
Yeah.
Some people respond well to that, some don't, but there was a little bit of animosity there, the whole time for that kind of stuff. And then you know by the end of by the end of it all, kind of what like separated us was, long story short, I had walked away for a year. The next year they had asked me to come back to spring training, and then during spring training we were out and about one night like the boys do sometimes, and then had stayed out. We're going to another spot. The buddy who was driving us got pulled over and got a DUI that night. And
Mm.
so the next day at practice, he was not available to make it to the field that day because he was staying the night at the old clinker. And,
Yeah.
um, it was one of those things. Well, oh yeah, Budgell was
Yeah.
with Hawk last night, and it's like, oh, Budgell, why don't you come in here and tell us what happened? And I took the avenue of just like be true here and just give them the honest truth, and then there's
Yeah.
can't go wrong with that usually. And so I told them what was going on. I ended up getting suspended indefinitely and unable to play again. The guy who was driving got a 2-week suspension. Apparently I was on like a zero tolerance policy from
Hmm.
the year before, since I had decided to voluntarily walk away. I was
Yeah.
on a super secret contract that was so super secret I didn't even know about it. And
Yeah.
so I was really, really bitter about that, honestly, for the longest time. It chapped my ass pretty good, you know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
felt like my whole entire like life's work at that point had been like just stripped out from underneath me, and it took some time for me to like relearn, or I mean not even relearn life, but to learn life
Yeah.
without baseball, because for my entire life that was what it all worked around, and so um it took me a while, but like I eventually did things like camping. I never went camping until I was in my 20s, bro, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Saw a river when I was in like 23 and it blew my mind. You know what I mean? So um as much as I was really just like torn up and broken down by what had happened initially, I
Yeah.
look back and I'm so grateful for all that have happening exactly the way that it did. Mind you, a little sprinkle on top of that, I ended up getting an agent to sue for my rights back, because I was like, you guys can't just you
Yeah.
can't just you can't suspend me forever. Now I can't play baseball for anybody, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
um, we won that lawsuit, which is great. And then
Nice.
they sued me for my signing bonus back, and
Oh.
they won that lawsuit, which was a big L for me. So, 20, 23 or 24, filed bankruptcy, you know, was like already bankrupt, and just was like, what the hell? How did this happen? You
Damn.
know what I mean? Like, I went from like six figures at 18 years old to literally bankrupt at 23, 5 year swing, man. And I mean, part of that, the financial part of that has got nothing to do with them really. You know, that's just me being a jackass and, you know, being
Getting a bunch of money
18.
when you're young and doing a bunch of dumb
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, exactly, man. And
Yeah.
for somebody like me, from like, if you knew me in high school, you knew I like to have a good time. And so
Yeah.
if you go ahead and are just like, yeah, here's, you know, a couple $100,000, go ahead, like have fun. And no, you don't have to go to school on Monday. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
the partying just got real, you know? And so I went down that path hard, man. You know what I mean? And it was kind of like your typical, you know, you hear the story like, oh, like I just had everything, and you know, it just threw it away. You know, I mean, I heard that story like more times than anybody ever wants to hear from a bunch of people who have, you know, all the expertise on somebody else's life anyways. And so you know, yeah, it was wild, man. I went through that whole
Yeah.
up and down. It was, you know, kind of one of those like the higher you climb, the harder you fall kind of deal. And for
For
a while
sure.
there, bro, I was flying on cloud 10. We jumped straight past 9 and we're going for it, you know. But there was some serious lessons to be learned, you know, as far as just
Yeah.
being responsible. And
What would you say is the biggest lesson you took away after you kind of got out of the MLB? You came to peace of mind with it. Like, what was the biggest lesson you took away from that, would you think?
I would say that my biggest lesson from that would be to not ever make a decision based on monetary values alone. Um, I you know, I was committed to go to Cal State Fullerton my senior year.
Hmm.
I had a full scholarship to go play at Fullerton, which was like my dream school from the
Yeah.
time that I was, I mean, like maybe 12, something like that, you know? And so I got a full ride scholarship my junior year, which was really early. And that was like my, you know, dream come true.
Yeah.
Flash forward to senior year, and I was Mr. Joe Cool, or at least I thought I was, right? And was like cutting classes, you know, all over the place. I was like, I'm one of those guys where I'll do the math and figure out like, all right, this is what grade I need to get to pass, so I'm fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for me, school was the challenging part of school was my, again, like the challenging authority thing. And I'm like, for some of it, I'm like, why am I like, why do I need to learn this? You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
apply. You know, and it's again kind of that typical like, oh, dude, you're so cool. You know, but but it's like seriously, it was a problem for me. And then senior year, that problem steamrolled into me being in, you know, academic trouble in high school, and then
Mm.
Cal State Fullerton looking at me being on academic probation and being like, bro, we can't be putting a whole scholarship into somebody who we don't even know is going to graduate high school. And I'm like,
Yeah.
damn. And mind you, like I got an 1810 on my SATs, so I'm not like a box of rocks necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just
You just didn't
yeah,
apply
I just
yourself, more or less.
yeah, yeah. And you know, and when I was, you know, younger, and looking back from my old age that I'm at now, I realized that there was a lot of stops along the way in high school where I could have probably just put this much more effort
Yeah.
in and left a lot more options open for me. And so Fullerton pulled my scholarship, and that left me with two options. That left me with signing and going pro if I got drafted,
Hmm.
or going to a junior college, which there's pros and cons to that. But again, 18-year-old kid, you have the opportunity to go sign and be a pro, or
Yeah. You're taking
to
that
go.
all day.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, well, right, bro. You're gonna give me money to play baseball, and I don't have to go to school. Okay, where
It's
do
a
I
wrap.
sign? Yeah. Um, Even though, yeah, oh man, it was so wild. Like draft day, I got they, you know, I was told to like turn my phone off. The Mets were gonna take me in the 12th round, and you know, done deal. Like we got you. And I was like, oh, okay. Like turn my phone off, huh? Like, hmm. Well, I already got messages from a couple other teams that like they want to take me
Yeah.
sooner than that, so I can't turn my phone off. And so like, you know, a minute later, like, all right, cool, we'll go 10th round and we'll give you what we're gonna give you. And you know, what do you say? And I was like, all right, phone's going off. Sounds like a done deal to me. You know what I mean? And because that was like the first time I realized right there. I'm like, they want me to turn my phone off. Like, what if somebody else wants to take me for
Yeah,
like
yeah,
something
yeah.
better?
They're trying to
Nobody, you know,
put
nobody
you in a
ever
corner.
texted me before that. You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay, you want me to turn my phone off? Well, then before that, let's go ahead and bump that price up real quick. You know, because
Yeah,
there's other offers on the table. You know, but
right.
not so much. You know, I don't know. It
Yeah.
was
So let's say we fast forward, you get out of the MLB, you go through all that, feel like you just got punched in the face, you're bankrupt, kind of just like in a shitty place, and you sort of start to like come out of that, figure out your life again, and then ultimately you come to this place of you're figuring out life, and all of a sudden your stomach doesn't feel good, you're throwing up all the time, and boom, the C word lands, and you realize ultimately that right as you feel like you're starting to figure out your life again, that you have like cancer. Um, I'm curious for you, having gone through cancer as well, what was your first thought when you initially, actually, let's go even before that. What was happening that you were like, something might not be right? Like, what was that? And then bring us to when you found out.
okay. Yeah. Um, Another good example of me being kind of hard headed here. February last year is when I was in Europe. I was visiting my buddy in Austria, and we were having no shortage of a good time out there.
Yeah.
And one morning, I woke up with just the most horrendous stomach pain that you could imagine and was puking. And in my head, I'm like, you know what? Like, I've been in Europe for 5 days. That sounds about right. You know, like
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just catching up to me. You know, I've been like basically living off of, you know, beer and, you know, pizza for about a week
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna happen. But I kind of pushed through it. Long story short, I came back home, chilled out on the whoop-de-doing for a while. Nothing really was changing with my stomach. So rather than going to a doctor to get it checked out, I was like, well, I guess this is just kind of like my normal life now.
Hmm.
So, and since, you know, I was working as a bartender at the time at a couple different places. So I was like, well, you know, like go back to drinking beers and it's not a big deal. And there was never like a difference in my stomach at that point or anything when I was drinking or not drinking, whether it hurt. So I was just like working, doing my thing, you
But it
know,
hurt
like
the whole
not change.
time.
What's that?
It was, there was pain the whole time.
Yeah, there was pretty much pain like the whole time off and on. And I mean, it would come in waves, you know, it just like comes in these like surges that just
Hmm.
at by the end of it, I mean, it would put me on the ground, which would like, that was kind of when I was like, oh, I need some health insurance. We need to get this figured out like
Yeah.
yesterday. But yeah, I was like working through it in California at that point still. And then, it's pretty wild. I was like doing really, really well. I'd saved up some good coin, was planning on coming back out here to Oahu after doing some traveling in Australia first was the plan, you know, go cruise around Australia for like a month and then come back to Oahu. I'm already like halfway here, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. And then that didn't happen because I almost got a DUI actually
Huh.
in June of last year. I was leaving work. Um, like a dipstick, busted an illegal U-turn, was driving home, got popped for it. And then the craziest thing ever happened with it was that the officer, and God bless this poor woman's soul, but the officer was a defendant of a domestic violence case, and so they he couldn't stand in court against me. So I got really like slid in with the good graces somewhere along the lines, but that got dismissed.
Hmm. Dang.
And it had, yeah, and bro, just not good. Nobody ever need like. I wish Man, yeah, if they put like IEDs in cars, and I know a lot of people don't like that idea of that because you know, it makes it so you can't drink and drive your car. But
Right.
man, it's just so bad for people. It's just dangerous news. So, anyways, long story short, moved back out here to Oahu, reconnected with Alex in July of last year, and things I was, you know, working all the time, kind of caught between trying to get settled back on Oahu again and trying to work enough to get health insurance covered and all that
Yeah.
fun stuff. Eventually got the health insurance right around the holidays, and that was right around the time when things were at their worst about this time last year. You
Hmm.
know, I was in pretty decent shape, at least exterior wise, in November around Thanksgiving last year. I was working out all the time, was doing yoga in the park and just like
Yeah.
really feeling good other than those surges where, I mean, like, even then, you know, finish a workout and we're all chilling and I just get like kind of nauseous and just get this crazy pain in my stomach that was just like, you know, I mean, it
Yeah.
just would like take away everything else that was going on around me. And then December hit and I just started hitting a decline really, really fast. By Christmas, I was down almost 30 pounds from I was probably like
Jesus.
25 pounds lighter than where I was at Thanksgiving. And at this point, I had already had my appointments set for, you know, my endoscopy and all that, or no, not even the endoscopy, but for my GI appointment, you know, the consultation.
Right.
Um, and yeah, finally, after the holidays, got back here to Oahu. Um, you know, we had never really even thrown, I thought I had ulcers in my stomach. You know, that was my thought. I'm like, I've heard of this happening. You know, I maybe not to the extent, I don't know, maybe not quite as painful when you have ulcers, but I don't know. Anyways,
Right.
thought I had some ulcers. I picked them up in Europe, you know, some party ulcers, as I like to call them. And then
Yeah.
it turned out, yeah, we went and did the endoscopy first to try to get my, sorry to let's back up just a second, but to try to get my GI appointment booked. I had one scheduled, and then like 2 days before my appointment, they called and told me I was going to have to reschedule for later in the month because the doctor was going to be out of town. And I thought that was just like kind of outrageous to do that, you know,
Yeah.
2 days before the appointment or whatever. And so initially I was like, okay, um, you know, whatever, it's fine. I'll just go on January 26th. And then just something clicked in me that was like, you know what? No, that's unacceptable. You know, I
Yeah.
need to be
Something's
seen
not
sooner, you know?
setting.
And so
Yeah.
they were supposed to hold a an appointment for me because I had already moved work around to, you know, schedule it around the appointment that I had planned, and then had to do some things to move the appointment around. And basically, after I got work figured out, I called them to confirm the appointment, and the lady told me that they had given the appointment that I was holding away to another patient who needed to be seen right away, and that lit a fire under my ass like nobody's business, bro. I mean, I didn't get heated on the phone. I'm not like a yeller and screamer on the phone. I think that's like the worst thing ever. But
Yeah. You're not gonna
I,
solve any issues with that.
yeah, not at all. Right. But a very well crafted and very stern email to the head of a department somewhere in a hospital will definitely get some attention, you know? And so, just a miracle, just like that, I had an appointment the next day at 9 in the morning.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's when I met Dr. O'Brien. He's the guy who did my consultation. Boom, flash forward to the next week or whatever it was. We did the colonoscopy and endoscopy, or the 2-for-1 special, as I like to call it. And you
Yeah.
know, usually you gotta pay double for that kind of action, but I just told him to put it on my insurance bills tab. You know, it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all good on the colonoscopy, and then, you know, the doctor's like, but then when we turned you around, I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna be interesting. He's like, you know, I found a growth on the lining of your stomach that I believe to be malignant, and I was like, I never heard that word before,
Yeah,
but
malignant meaning.
yeah, infectious, it's basically cancerous is what he thought. And, homie's been around the block a time or two. He's like very experienced with what he's doing. And so, I mean, instantly, I was just kind of like, I was like, cancer. And he said, yes, cancer. And I mean, seriously, like a ringing in my head of just kind of like, I mean, oh yeah, almost like a ring, like kind
Yeah.
of some white noise almost. And then
It was just you?
it was me and Alex. We just like looked at each other and just like, I mean, kind of Niagara Falls a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at the same time, it was like a sense of relief to know that we know what the problem is, so now we can try to do something to
Fix
fix
it.
it.
Yeah.
The interesting part was that my scope was done on my brother and sister's birthday. My little brother and older sister have the same birthday, um,
Hmm.
so that was a really interesting call to the family,
Yeah.
to hey, happy birthday, I have cancer,
And
so
huh.
that was
How did
yeah.
your parents react to it?
um it was really tough on them. It was I think between my parents and Alex. Uh,
Yeah. And you were married at this point or almost married?
we weren't married yet when I was diagnosed.
Engaged?
We had started talking about it probably honestly like around in November. We had like talked about getting married in the future, and um, once the diagnosis hit, we had really started kind of talking about it, and then. Um, I had my surgery a week after I was diagnosed. They took out 60% of my stomach and then shaved off a little portion of my pancreas, where the tumor had kind of like attached a little bit. And then
Yeah.
uh, 5 weeks of recovery after that. And then Alex and I had to go to California for my treatment.
Right.
But before we went out there, her birthday's Valentine's Day, of course. And
Yeah.
um, before we went to California on her birthday, I was like, hey, like, let's get married before we go out there, and she was all about it right away. We were just kind of
Yeah.
thinking, like, we know we're going to be together for the rest of our lives, or at least the rest of one of our lives, because one of us
Right.
might not.
Yeah.
But, we, yeah, we just were like, yeah, let's do it, so
So
we decided.
when for you was the moment where you went from holy shit to I'm gonna be okay? Like do you remember a moment like that, or was it instantly, or did it take a while?
It was pretty instant, honestly. The craziest thing is just, I think a lot of the time people would expect, and probably most of the time, for people, cancer is like the greatest obstacle to
Yeah.
overcome on your journey. But and 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 maybe it is definitely the greatest obstacle that we've like overcome. But all of the trials and tribulations that I was able to experience before that,
Yeah.
before this happened, that all just paved the way to make this a lot more manageable than it would have been if life was just a cakewalk before this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Like you've
Like
been
if I
through
was,
stuff and you knew that you could get through difficult things.
yeah,
Like you knew
yeah,
how strong you
exactly.
were ultimately.
Yeah, and it wasn't the first time that life had thrown a curveball my way, or really just like squirted lemon juice in my eyeball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, um, but it was pretty instant. There was so much emotion. I mean, there was the whole time, we know where it's going to be okay, but it's just, the processing of, this is a reality. There is absolutely no undoing this. It's your life. This is
Yeah.
now the way that it's going to be forever, and obviously, you know I don't know, life is going to be different now. I got to be aware of a lot of, or you should always be aware of it before, but now I'm aware of the fact that I
Extra.
need to be on top of so much of this stuff. But
Yeah.
I remember having some conversations in the beginning, just saying, man, I think in some weird roundabout kind of fucked up way, this is this is just, like helping me align with my purpose
Hmm.
in life, really. Like I've always wanted to uh, help people navigate through their journeys, because I've identified and recognized the fact that you and I are both incredibly equal to each other, and we're both on equally as complex journeys through this crazy life of ours, right? And
Yeah.
that alone right there is enough for me to want to try to at least put a hand out or shine a light for people who are going through similar struggles, whether it be health complications or struggling with, substances, really. I partied way too hard for way too long. And, I think it's just, this whole thing put me right into the place where I'm like, there's not enough, there's not enough time for me to sit around and not do it now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like get stuff done, help people now, try to share positive messages and try to provide people with things that are going to make their life better for them, because if
Yeah.
everybody else is doing a little bit better, then things are pretty good, and so
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting that something that was very similar for me going through the cancer was like, this is happening for a reason, and like this is just part of my story. Like, this isn't going to kill me. I know I'm not supposed to not be in this world anymore. And so clearly this is just like part of my journey that will build me into the person that I'm supposed to be, And so kind of like in a very simple way that life is happening for me, it's not happening to me. Right. And so like anyone that's going through it, right, whether you're listening to this and you have cancer, right? And or if you're listening to this and someone in your family has cancer, like understanding that, and as hard as it is to maybe hear this or understand this, that like getting cancer is life happening for you. It's not life happening to you. And I think when you can make that switch, when you have such a, they say like cancer is the most feared word in 7 languages. And it's like, if you can take something like that in life and say life's happening for me, like the amount that will change the rest of your life is ridiculous. And it'll clearly help you get through the cancer process. And so I just think that's interesting that I had a very similar experience. And that was like, okay, this is just part of my story. This isn't going to end me. This is just part of this process, and something greater is going to come from this. Um, so interesting. So I'm curious, because I didn't go through chemo. The cancer I had was non-responsive to chemotherapy, so it was all surgical. And so obviously chemo, my belief is that chemo would have been more intense. Like you had your stomach cut open, I had my stomach cut open. Both of us had cancer take out through our stomach, right? And like, but you went through the process of chemo where it was, how long was chemo for you?
I did 4 months. It was 16 weeks of chemo treatments,
Okay,
which
16 weeks. So what would you say kept you in a positive state through 16 weeks of, I mean, you could touch on maybe the process of chemo a little bit, but it just depletes you of your energy, of everything, right? So like, what kept you positive throughout all of that process?
Well, for starters, I'll go ahead and just say I was not positive throughout the entire process. So for anyone who
Yeah.
is maybe listening and going through treatments, don't think like, who's this jackass who's just like everything's, I'm like, everything's rainbows and butterflies, even in chemo. I mean, there was, the overall vibe, definitely tried to keep it on the high note. And that was, my family being around, uh, having Alex with me. We weren't really sure if she was going to be able to come to California or not. Well, she was certain the whole time she was coming, whether
Yeah.
her school or work were going to let her or not. She was like, yeah, I'm out.
Yep.
So, having her there, having and it was a really unique situation, man. I was in the middle of like a beautiful forest in Northern California at my parents' property with my little brother and my wife there. And so
Yeah.
it's like, and considering my first treatment was on Friday the 13th in March, and then 4 days later, 5 days later, the
The
country
work.
shut down for COVID-19. It was like, it's one of those things where you're just like, okay, is this real? You know, like,
Yeah.
is this for real? Seriously. And then, you show up to like get your blood work done and somebody pokes you with a needle and it's like, oh yeah, no, it's for real, for sure. Like,
Yeah.
uh,
Felt that.
yeah, dude, music, being around the family and then being out in nature, just like way away from everything that was going on, which at that point in time, it was just like so necessary.
Yeah.
To just kind of be away and secluded and just heal and work on the physical side of things were pretty rough, there. I mean, but at that point I was pretty used to being sick, you know what I mean? So I was like, oh yeah, I can handle this.
Yeah.
After my first round I was like, wow, that's not that bad. Second round, cool, bro, kicked my ass all over the place, dude. And then every round 2 through 7 was pretty brutal a little bit,
Yeah.
and then the 8th round, I think I was just so hyped up that I wasn't going back for 9. I mean, I didn't get any side effects really. I was just on 10 level of energy, it was great, man, really. But
Yeah. What
yeah,
would you
dude, it was
say what would you say is the hardest part through all the cancer for you?
it was so part of it. Well, I'll just go ahead. I'd say number one for me personally was the mental and emotional struggle that came during chemo. It does affect your energy levels, but I mean, it affects your energy levels. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I would try. You know how there's some days where you like wake up and like stub your toe and you're like, oh damn, and you're like, you know what, I'm not gonna let that get to me, it's all good, today's gonna be a good day, and then like, I don't know, you go to
Yeah.
get toothpaste on your shirt before you go to leave, and then you can't find your key, it's just like little things here and there that, and you normally I'm swiping that
Yeah.
stuff out of
Yeah.
the
Get
way,
out of
like
here.
you
Get out
can't
of
mess
here.
with me. Yeah, exactly. And then during my treatments, man, sometimes there would be nothing happening and I would just be a, a mess about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like emotional. And there was a couple times where I can remember waking up and literally I didn't even have time to like inhale and I was crying already, and it's like, I think that is part of the stuff that could use more awareness. Maybe I think like for me, especially in this, in the young adult cancer community,
Yeah.
it's already, the cancer community is already has a way of feeling isolated or isolating. And then you put the age factor in there and then you're really having a chance to feel isolated. And then that's where I feel like, I would love for people to just know that, yeah, dude, like for me, the me being somebody who is borderline obnoxiously optimistic, like it's
Yeah.
almost to the point where you're like, bro, chill
Yeah.
out. It like, but even for me, it was really hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes I was just like this, like this is terrible. This is not worth it, and those were moments that would come. And regardless of how hard I'd try sometimes to be positive, I just had to realize that, you know what, it's not here right now. And I think that as long as like you can get down, but you got to be getting back up, like you can't stay down and like sulk down there for too long, which
Right.
sometimes is easier said than done. But
For
again, I
sure.
think that's when having my family around, having my beautiful wife right by my side, dude, she shaved her freaking head for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
That's love. That's love.
bro, like she, to have that kind of support during something like that is, I mean, what would I have
Yeah.
done
That
without
that
that?
that's
Like
what got you through it.
yeah, without a doubt, man. And so it's so weird. And my heart is with all of the people who are still trying to find that part of their cancer experience that turns into a positive for them.
Yeah.
And I know that they will find it if they continue to like allow it to reveal itself. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think oh man, it's just oof, it was just such an experience, and coming out of it has just, I think, given me I always had a deep appreciation of life, but my appreciation for dude, look at these puppies, bro. You know what I'm saying? These eyebrows are sweet, man. You know what I mean? Because for a couple months, bro, I looked like, I don't even really know, like a kind of like a Barbie doll, Ken doll before you put the paint on it, like before you put the hair paint on it, and but
Yeah.
it was so yeah,
So to kind of bring this full circle, like let's say someone is listening to this and they're, got diagnosed with cancer, knows someone who has cancer that's in their family that they're close to, like what guiding advice would you give them to get through that process or support someone in that process?
man, I'd say so two answers to that one. On
Yeah.
the support side, I feel like a lot of the times the caretaker or the support role can feel inadequate or like helpless because there's only so much you can do from the
Yeah.
support role. But coming from the one who's being supported, that is the only thing that we need in that time, so like if you're somebody who's supporting someone in that caretaker role, just being there
Yeah.
and like the undying support is so important. Because I mean, there was times where I was irritable, and I can guarantee I was a pill to be around, but that patience and understanding, because this is temporary, this situation is temporary, and it will get better. And so just being there and showing the love and like holding somebody, maybe
Yeah.
not if you don't live in the same house right now, if you know what I mean, with the COVID situation, but there's like being there to let someone know that you have their back, I think is the number one. And then for the person or the people who are going through it, just, it's okay to not be okay sometimes doing it, because it's, just know that it's gonna be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's all temporary right now, and it's the whether you asked for it or not, and I can guarantee nobody ever asked for it, but whether you like it or not, it's the situation, and you have to do what you can to find the room for growth where the growth is, and understand that like it's a circumstance, it's not life. You know what I mean? Like, it's not everything. There's still so much beauty in life, and there's so much love to be able to give and receive even during something like this. And so yeah, like that, you cannot lose sight of those things. There's literally miracles happening all over the place,
Yeah.
flying by us like so
For real.
so I think the to practice the ability to find those moments is probably the one of the keys. It's like a janitor's key ring with all the keys that there
Yeah.
are, but one of them for sure is perspective, man.
Yeah, I love it. So, I'm curious, Matt, if people want to get more information with everything you're up to, I know post cancer you're doing a lot, especially a lot for that community. If people want to see what you're up to, find more about you, where's the best place for them to go?
Yes, absolutely. So for anybody who is interested, yeah, Alex and I, my wife and I, we created a nonprofit, the Love for Life Foundation. It's fully dedicated to supporting young adult, any young adult that's impacted by cancer. I can be an active patient, a survivor. I can be a caretaker or a partner, family member of a young adult that's been diagnosed by cancer. Part of the thing that we realize is that there's just not enough people. There's too many sick people and not enough people that are able to help, as far as the cancer world is concerned, or the world as a whole.
Yeah.
We noticed that there's a really big gap in the young adult community. And we just, yeah, we want to be able to provide that emotional support, that guidance through the process. And when we can, we do provide some financial support. So if anybody's looking for any of the information on the foundation, www.theloveforlifefoundation.org. All the information is up there on Instagram at Love for Life Foundation, Facebook at The Love for Life Foundation. A little confusing there, but be on it.
Yeah.
But you can find all the information on the website. On Instagram, you can find us. You can find me at Barefoot Budge on Instagram. I'm more than happy to talk about what we're doing with the foundation. If anybody's interested in getting involved with the foundation, please do not hesitate to reach out to either the foundation's page or to my personal page. Somebody or myself, most likely myself, will be happy to get in touch with you and see what we can do to make some things happen. But yeah, it's a life-changing experience. The cancer deal is, and it doesn't have to be a life-changing experience in a negative way. It can be a very positive thing.
True.
So we want to connect with other young adults who are going through this experience, and we want to help show them the tools and the ways and the perspectives that we were able to find that helped us go from, okay, how do we take this from literally a living nightmare and turn it into a dream come true? And we're working towards hopefully trying to be able to provide, hope and just some goodness in such a realistically terrible situation. We never want to pretend like that cancer is not the worst thing, one of the worst things that you can go through. Because it is, but life doesn't have to be the worst thing ever just because it happened. There's going to be tough, terrible moments without a doubt. You can bet you all in on that. You know what I mean? But it's, you don't have to do it alone, and we're all here, you've been through it and you're on the other side, and like, look at the growth and the path that you've carved for yourself and the amazing people that have come into your life in the last X amount, 4, 5, 6, 27, 8, 9 years. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing, man. And so I think that our biggest thing is we just really want to bring the community together there, and just bring a sense of family to it, because even in the couple of short months that we have been doing it, it's just it's pretty amazing to see the impact we've made. We just put out our 4th and 5th grants this week, actually.
Let's go.
Three months of operation, we put out 5 grants already to help some individuals and some families paying for rent and for some non-covered medical expenses, or not covered by insurance.
Right.
Yeah, man, we're trying our best. We just, we want to make the world a better place, and wanting to have always helped people before, not knowing exactly how to do it, and then it's like, boom, get diagnosed with cancer, go through that experience yourself. Okay, well, I definitely know some people that I can try to help through some stuff, So
yeah,
we're blessed, man. We're really grateful to be able to do it.
Yeah, I love it. So, last question for you, and this is something I ask everyone that comes on the podcast, because we want to help people find direction, but more importantly, we want to help people find direction through execution, right? Not just sit on your couch figuring out your life, but like actually going out there and doing something. And so I would be curious, what would you say is one thing that someone listening into this can do in the next 24 to 48 hours to start finding direction in their life?
Next 24 to 48 hours to start finding direction in your life, I guess. So depending on where you're at, if it's blistering cold outside, maybe you wouldn't want to do it this way. You can find your own space inside. But I'd say, honestly, a little time outdoors with no cell phone, with some just you and the earth kind of action to just have a little walk around and some good breathing, some nice clean air. Hopefully you can get that. I'm sorry for all my family that's in LA, but I really think, like, in the next 24 to 48 hours to be able to treat yourself, to giving yourself the space so you can navigate around and even figure out kind of what direction you want to be going down. You know, I think that it's so easy, especially like the world is so weird right now, you know, it's so weird.
Yeah.
And so I think it's easy to get frazzled, and I think it's easy to kind of get caught up into this kind of like system that it seems like we're all supposed to be going by right now. And I think that especially because of the circumstances that we're all sharing right now, it's
Yeah.
more important now than ever to tune in to yourself and tune up the areas that you see yourself underserving, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I think step one to finding direction really is
Yeah.
unwinding a little bit and being able to like putting yourself in a position where you're able to think clearly and to feel something. You know what I mean? There's so much going on that like people will there. It's easy to not be in your feelings or in your own thoughts. Well, I guess sometimes it's not so hard to get in your own thoughts, but you know, like
Right.
to understand them though, and to know where
Yeah.
the emotions are coming from, and to know what you need to do to improve the things around you, that takes a lot of peace, and that takes a lot of stillness and a
True
lot of
that.
honesty with yourself, you know. And so I don't know, if you're listening to this and you're screwing off a little bit more than you think you should be or that you want to be, like that's totally okay. Coming from the king of self-sabotage himself,
Yeah.
like it's all good, you know. Take a step back and just like just slow down and give yourself some space, some time to breathe, and some
Right.
time to just feel, you know what I mean? I think step one, and when you finish that, find me on Instagram at Barefoot Budge, and then you can ask me what to do next. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome, man. Well, Matt, it's been a pleasure, brother, to have you on the podcast. Thanks for hopping on today.
Dude, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you, Stu. Have a blessed rest of your day, brother, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, my man.
Absolutely.